Hi there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Hi there. Welcome back to the final part 3 of the interview with the estranged adult child, Santrice. I hope that you have found her interview to be of interest. Perhaps you have found some nuggets of gold wisdom somewhere along the way, and perhaps it has prompted some reflection for you, specifically estranged parents, regarding your own childhoods, how you were raised, what it was like to experience having been parented by your own parents, and then perhaps a review of how you parented your children. So I want to thank Santrice so much for her big brave and willingness to come on and share her story in such a kind and compassionate way that I really appreciate her willingness to hold space for her mom, understanding the challenges her mom has in her life, and still wanting to be able to have a relationship with her mom, right? So thank you, Santrice, for being brave and willing to share your story with the Estranged Heart and all of our listeners. I'd like to announce that a new round of support groups, Zoom support groups, will be starting in January of 2024 for estranged moms as well as recently reconciled moms. If you are finding yourself in need of support to be in community with others who are traveling a similar path as yours, I encourage you to reach out for additional information and or to register. Feel free to email theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Again, theestrangedheart@gmail.com, and I'm happy to forward the information to you. They are weekly sessions, different times, different days. And again, a group for estranged moms and a group for recently reconciled moms. And you can find some testimonials, etc., on social media and further information regarding these support groups on Instagram and Facebook. So as we get on with today's episode, I have a couple of quotes that I'd like to share with you. The first is, "The soul exists in the rich, sometimes tense space between people, and how you handle that space can make all the difference in creating a healing environment." And that is by Thomas More from his book, The Care of the Soul in Medicine. And the next is, "When we begin doing what it takes to develop and deepen emotional intimacy, our relationships start to become less of a battlefield or flatland and more of a sanctuary. They become more vital, more nourishing, more authentic." And that is by Robert Augustus in Emotional Intimacy. On to today's episode. The black sheep of the family, because you're breaking this cycle. You're saying, this is crazy making. Like this, I don't know. Here, you just said it. I'm 36 years old. I feel like I'm a 10-year-old. Trying to figure out who I am. Mm-hmm. I've got all this stuff that I'm trying to sort out. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you're like, I have sympathy for my mom. Mm-hmm. I know she was a single mom. I know she only knew what she knew. At the same time, she hurt me. Would that be correct?
That is so correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just, that came out of my mouth earlier this morning. Yes, I have sympathy for my mom. I seeked out healing through trying to understand her perspective and her point of view for my healing, but also to do her healing part. I guess I'm not sure if that makes any sense. But at the same time, it's not an excuse for her to continue to have this relationship the way we have it. I feel like I want her to want a healthy relationship with me. I want her to want this.
I want to stop right there for just a moment because that's important. I want my mom to want to have a healthy relationship with me.
Mm-hmm.
I want my mom to want to have a healthy relationship with me.
Absolutely.
That is so powerful. And that's what I hear. And I tell moms because there's so many moms that I work with that say, my kids hate me. They don't love me. They don't this, that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's not true. That's not true.
No.
It really isn't true. What they're wanting is a healthy relationship between parent and adult child, right? And regardless of how old that adult child is, I'm in my mid 50s. I still want a close, emotionally healthy relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
It's something, as long as it's a need and a want that is not fulfilled, we will go throughout our lives trying to do anything we can to seek it out. And that is why when parents tell me, you know, I don't know where this came from, I'm like, your child you tried over and over, like we just said, you went through all of these. I move in and she throws me out. I go back and she throws me out. I go back and she throws me out. Like it's this repetitive cycle because they are trying their best to figure out a way to stay connected.
Yes.
And be able to take care of themselves.
Yes. And I thought taking care of myself was wanting this relationship, no matter what it looked like with my mom. As unhealthy as it was, the older I got, the more I was like, I can't live my life without talking to my mom. I just don't, how could I do that? What kind of child would I be to not see about my mom? That's not me. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I am going to be. I couldn't fathom choosing estrangement. I didn't even know what estrangement was until recently. This is a new journey for me. And I still do want a relationship with my mom. But this time around, because I know what's best for me, this time around, I want it. She has to want to learn what healthy love looks like. Yes, I know my mom loves me because naturally she's a mom. Moms unconditionally love their children the moment they find out they're pregnant sometimes, or when the baby is born. But I want my mom to learn to love me in a new way. I want to give birth to that love. I want to appreciate what we've been through, but I want to discover and redefine our love. I feel like it's out there.
Give birth to a new love. Oh my gosh. Like, wow. Wow. How beautiful is that? If we stop and think about using and I've used this as an example of estrangement as, like a pregnancy. It's a time of separation. You don't know exactly, like when a woman's pregnant, she doesn't know exactly what's happening on the inside, right? But we have to kind of just go along with it. And here we are. And so we're along for the ride. And how beautiful is it to take this time during the estrangement to conceive and nurture and grow something new and healthy and beautiful and loving and kind and reciprocal for both parties. That's so unbelievably beautiful. Help me help me to understand when the estrangement occurred. Kind of bring us up to speed. What initiated the actual break in communication, solid break in communication?
Okay, so this final straw happened last year, around Halloween weekend. I remember I was working one job. So I had two jobs at the time. I was working one, getting off there and getting ready to get dressed for the next one. My mom comes into my home office. That in this case, now, okay, let me rewind. I apologize. I'm here still at the house. That she said that if I helped her pay it off, or I paid it off, it would be mine. She decided to move back in. Now she sells her house that she bought when we did a transfers of residencies, and she sold that house. She moved back in with me in her house. We lived together for, guess what, 8 months. And this time around, before when she told me she wants to move back in, she says, "Tan, I want to move back in because I believe this time around we can have a better relationship because you are doing the work. You're in a better place. You're older now. You are all about your business. You're doing therapy. I think that you and I can have a better relationship." I said, "Really?" Because I'm doing the work. So that means this is the first time I've ever said, I questioned her, and I said it just like I'm telling you now. Really? It's because, so all the work relied on me, not both of us? Okay. I said, "Well, Mom, I think that I should go ahead and move out before you move in. I want to get my own apartment. I don't think it's going to work." That triggered me to say what I said, because I have been doing therapy. I found the courage to say exactly what I was feeling in the moment I was feeling it. And she says, no, I don't want you to move out. I said, "Mom, it's not going to work." "No, it's definitely going to work out." You know why? You know how I know it's going to work out? Because you're older. Again, she says, because you're older, you're more mature. You have some understanding of where I'm coming from because you're doing therapy. I said, "Okay." She says, "Well, this is what I'm going to do. Since you're doing therapy, I'm going to move. Let's do therapy together." I said, "Huh?" Like, I was shocked. I was like, "This is going to happen? This is my ears." It was like hearing music. She's going to initiate therapy with me. Let's do couples therapy, except mother-daughter version.
Right.
She was like, "Yeah, set it up." She puts it in my ballpark to set it up. I said, "Okay, I'm not even going to fight with her, because the fact that she's wanting therapy, I'm not even I just want to just do it. I'll do whatever.
Right.
I'll do whatever." So I called my therapist. I was like, "Hey, my mom is agreeing to therapy. Can we do it?" She's like, "I don't normally do it with, with the client's parent, because there's not fraternization, but I'm so sorry, I lost the word that I wanted to use. It's a conflict of interest, because I'm helping you." And she said, "But I'm desperate for you. I really want this to go well with your mom." And I said, "Okay, great. When can we set it up?" So I told my mom we did therapy. My mom did not like it. She didn't. We did the one session. My mom was like, "Nope, not for me. Not going to do it. Not going to have it. This is how it's going to be. I'm moving in." So I said, "Okay, well, can we put down can we write down what we can agree to, so we know that we're on the same page?" We wrote impromptu contract kind of thing. Wasn't a lease agreement or nothing like that, because again, she's moving back in her house. I'm just taking care of it and paying the bills. And a couple of things I remember writing down is my mom. I said, "Mom, you will respect Centrice's boundaries. Realize she's an adult." That's what I needed in order for us to make this work. I was like, "Realize I am an adult. I've been taking care of this house all on my own without your help. Can you just understand? I have my non-social Sundays, meaning I don't like to be bothered on Sundays. Just because we live together, I'll be in my own part of the house, you be in your part of the house." Oh, the alcohol thing. This has gotten okay. Now this comes back into play because she's been drinking heavier. Like, this is every day, starting off in the mornings now with it, ending the day with it, and smoking. Now she's smoking too. She's smoking and drinking. And I said, "Mom, it really concerns me when you drink that you become abusive, whether that's physical or verbal. And that's why I think it's a good idea for me to move." No, I I'm not going to bring alcohol into the house. I'll drink before I come home. And I said, well, that kind of contradicts the issue. The issue is you drinking, period, and then who you become when you drink.
Right.
And I said, okay, so for me, she kind of like manipulated the situation. Well, technically, this is my house. I could do whatever I want. I said, okay. So she was like, can we meet in the middle? I just won't drink while I'm here at the house. So she was finding places to go drink, but come home drunk. Mm-hmm. And she would go straight to her room and not bother me. She said, I will go straight to my room and not bother you if I'm drunk. I said, okay, I guess I could be flexible with that. I'm still uncomfortable, but this is me people pleasing. I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
And we agreed to it. So she had a couple terms and I had a couple terms. Mine was to not boss her around. And what that means or looks like to her is not telling her how to cook in the kitchen. Like, I'm super clean and OCD and structured and organized. Mm-hmm. She hates it when I come in the kitchen and try to clean up around her when she's cooking. That's just our dynamic. I'm clean. She's messy. I'm organized. Right. She's not. Right. She did not like that. She's like, can you just not bother me while I'm in the kitchen? Okay, I won't do it. That's one of our things. Pretty much, she was like, well, looking at this contract, it looks like I have all the issues. And I could be throwing myself under the bus right now saying that. I don't know. But for me, it's just like, you told me I can move back in your house and have it, but now you're coming back into this house when I'm trying to leave. So the only way I could think of this working with me already doing the work of healing, therapy, keeping myself out of the way, going to work, and taking care of all the bills. What problems can I give you that we need to write down? I asked her. She says, okay. So we signed it. We put it up on the refrigerator so we can, see it, remind each other, are we following each other's boundaries? Well, about 8 months later, around Halloween weekend, she comes into my room or office while I'm working and tells me, Centris, I'm not happy. And, I think that is messed up that you'd tell me I have to follow all of your rules. And this is my house. This is when she used cuss words, this is my damn house. And I got to follow your rules. That's not how this is going to work. So I worked really hard to make sure we can live together in a peaceful manner, but I'm just not happy. I'm trying really hard to make sure you're happy. And I just feel like you'll never be happy with me. And here's the same spiel. You don't listen to me. You're disrespectful. And this is when I finally said, Mom, how am I disrespectful? And she said, this is an example right now. You cutting me off while I'm talking to you. I asked you the other day to go and do something and you didn't do it. I asked you to take care of this and you didn't do it. I asked you to do this and you didn't do it. And I'm just tired of it, Centris. I'm just tired of it. And I said, so your happiness is contingent based on me obeying you.
Right.
Oh, see, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. You just so disrespectful. You like to talk back. You like to argue. I ain't never met no child that like to argue. And I said, Mom, I really don't see why this is a big issue for you to kick me out. Because most times people will kick their children out when they're probably drug abuse or putting their family in harm, or I had a house full of kids and you were constantly babysitting them. But the only issue is you're not happy and you rely on me for your happiness. Okay. So I got dressed. I went to my second job. I made some arrangements to have some movers come and move me out. I called off sick at the other job, packed up in 3 days, and I was out the day before, I think, Halloween. And from then on, I didn't even tell her. She saw me moving out. She came to the house. We didn't talk. She saw me with the U-Haul truck. She just drove past me. She comes back a couple of hours later when I'm pretty much finished packing up the truck. Still didn't say hi, you need help, nothing. So there was like no way of me telling her, Mom, I am choosing that. I think we need a break. I'm not going to probably be a while before I'm ready to talk to you again. Just remember getting in my U-Haul truck. I remember I feel like I was leaving a domestic abusive relationship. That's what it felt like the day of.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. I was hurt. I was vulnerable. I felt betrayed. Felt, I felt sad, and I felt scared because I knew this was a point of no return. Also, the day that she told me I had to leave, she did give me 30 days, but she said, do know that when you leave this house, you cannot come back. You will never come back. You are not welcome to stay here with me. You can come and see me, but you can't live. We are never going to do this again. And I said, you know what? You took the words right out of my mouth, because I don't ever want to do this again. And so, yeah, that's what led to the 8 to 9 month, almost a year of no texting, no calling, no emails, no mailing. I mailed her a birthday card just because I had that guilt and shame. But I didn't leave.
Did she acknowledge that?
No, I didn't want her to. I didn't leave a forwarding address on it. So I just sent it with no return address. So she didn't know where it came from. I don't even remember signing it, but she probably knew it was from me, because of my handwriting on the front of the envelope, of course. But I did it out of, like, I didn't want to regret something in this estrangement. I didn't want to regret, like, if something was to happen to my mom, did I at least wish her happy birthday? Did I say I love her at least one more time? But that was the only reach out I did during those 8 to 9 months.
Okay. During those 8 to 9 months, how did you feel? Was there a sense of relief in one way of, oh my gosh, I don't have the stress of, the back and forth, and she says this and tells me how to do that, or etc. Was there, I miss my mom. Why can't I have a relationship like other people have with their mom? Like, what, tell me what your thoughts were during that time.
Okay, so never had I felt relief in this whole experience. Never did I feel happy. Never did I feel joy. I never felt the positive spectrum of that. It all felt depressing. I remember the first 4 months, I felt so depressed. I felt like I needed my therapist every week. I was always like, it felt like a breakup. I've never been in a romantic relationship, but if it was anything like this, it felt like it could have been that. Like, I felt depressed. I felt like, oh my goodness, what is this going to look like for the next few months? I'm talking to my mom. Oh my goodness, does my mom hate me? Does my mom miss me? Is she thinking about, oh my goodness, is my mom okay? Like, and my mom is young, but the fact that she's raised me to always be thoughtful and mindful of her health has been in the back of my mind. Like, oh, if I'm not talking to my mom, who's going to take care of her? I'm the only child. She is single. She has no husband. She has nobody. It's just her and I. We've always been the duo. We're the team that's supposed to survive this, but we aren't surviving this, and we're not doing it well. So the whole time I felt guilt. There was shame. I felt pitiful. I felt like, oh my God, this is my fault. How did we get here? I felt like everything fell on me. It felt like I needed to take accountability. But how can I get to the place to now I could talk to my mom and apologize on why we got here or how we got here? I felt like it was all my fault. And that led to me finding your podcast. I remember, how did I come across Estranged? I just remember months and months have passed of me still feeling depressed. There was sometimes too where I would go out in public and be scared I'll see her. I did not want to run into my mom because I was scared. There was this undescribable fear. I can't explain to you this kind of fear. This was next level fear. I didn't want to encounter her. Why? Because I didn't want to feel like she still had power over me, that she still had control. that I would cry, that I looked weak, that I didn't want her to see that I wasn't happy either. Like it was so many things. And because the relationship was so abusive in a way that felt like I left a domestic relationship, I felt like that wife that left a bad relationship, and I kept looking over my shoulder. So there was times I didn't want to leave the house. There was times I didn't want to leave the house to talk to her. What would I say? How would I feel? There's so many unanswered questions. But now I'm at the point, here it is, almost a year later, almost 12 years, or excuse me, 12 months. I can finally go out in public and I'm not looking behind my back. The fear is not so elevated like it used to be. The anxiety is not there. But that's because I uncovered estrangement. I can put a name to the experience.
Right.
Because there was no name to it, I felt alone. Let me tell you, I felt so alone. I felt like no one could understand what this felt like as an adult, only child, not talking to her mom. Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot of emotions. That's a lot of feelings.
A lot of weight.
A lot of weight. And I can tell you that most all of the estranged adult children I have ever been in communication with have shared some version of that. If not all of that. Right. There are, I mean, and fear seems to be an underlying common thread with all of them. And so I find that interesting, even if it wasn't a physically abusive relationship between the parent and adult child, but it's that fear of the emotional piece. I mean, there's I think that I remember for myself, there's, in all other areas of my life, I felt like a fully functioning adult and able to make decisions and, pay my bills and do my things and be independent. And then when I was with my mom, I was like, I felt like I was reduced to this 5-year-old. Yes. And I'm like, how does this happen? Like, how do we, I in all other areas of my life, I'm perfectly functioning and able to manage my life. And I get around this person and all of a sudden I can't make a decision. And it's that fear. It's that what is going to be the repercussion? What is the kickback going to be? What is the judgment going to be that I've done this or not done that, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? What are those things? And that is where I think the fear comes from. Yeah. And I think for a lot of kids, that fear can, instead of the parent being able to see that it's fear, the parent is seeing anger, right? Because anger typically covers fear. And so they're seeing anger from this kid and they're like, well, I can't talk to them. They're just so angry all the time. And I'm like, what's beneath that anger? Right. And that's typically what I find is the fear. So, so here you are, you have spent 8, 9, 10 months trying to sort through what you have described as like a breakup, right? Trying to figure out who you are, where do you belong, which end is up when your whole world is turned upside down. And now how did you guys quote unquote reconnect? Because I recognize that you don't feel this is a reconciliation because it's not frequent and it's not healthy and things like that. But how did that initial reconnection happen? Who reached out to who?
Okay, so this is a story, and I'm trying to figure out how do I explain it in a way. So neither one of us actually reached out to each other. One weekend, I still practice my non-social day as a boundary for me to recharge for the week. And it happened to be a Sunday. I get a call. I always put my phone on do not disturb on Sundays, so I don't feel the need to cross boundaries or check it. So, but one day I decided to look at the clock to see what time it is. Do I need to start getting ready for work? And I noticed I have 4 missed calls. And I'm like, who's calling me on Sunday? Everyone in my close circle knows I'm not, they don't call me. They know I'm not going to answer. So I get a look at the phone, caller ID. I notice an unidentified number. They leave a voicemail. So I'm like, let me see what this person has to say. It's a strange man, adult man, who leaves a voicemail concerning my mom. And all he says is, hey, this is I don't even know if he said his name. He just said, you need to call your mom. She is not okay. I'm worried about her. What does that do to me when I'm already in a place of concern? Is my mom okay? Is she healthy? Does she need me? Because I'm playing that motherly role to my mother, where I'm like, regardless of what she thinks of me, of how I can think of her. To the contrary, I actually am concerned always about my mom. And I'm panicking. What do I do? Oh my goodness. But also, my gut is telling me this is a control tactic. My gut is saying no, sentries don't fall for it. This is a setup. And if you look back at behaviors, this is a trap. I'm like, but no, Sam, what the benefit of the doubt? Here I am trying to prove to my mom I will always remain loyal and concerned about her. What is going on with her? So I was fighting myself. This was hard. So I called a trusted friend, close family member. What do I do? Well, Sam, I know you would regret if something actually happened to her, that you didn't check in, but I too agree that it's a trap. So I can't tell you what to do. At the end of the day, you got to live with yourself. I said, okay. And they said, the one thing is, if you're going to check on her, call the police and have them meet you at the house for a wellness check. So, okay. Now I'm scared to get the police involved because that's tax dollars. And I'm thinking this is also going to arouse her to be upset. I'm thinking about, oh goodness, is this going to be another repercussion of me trying to check up on her? But I'm also trying to cover my bases. So I still call the police anyway. I called the city, said, hey, can you meet me at this address? Because I'm concerned. I got a strange phone call that my mom is not okay. And when I asked this person if she is, because I called the person back, I forgot to mention that. I called the person back. They answered and I asked, is she okay? Does she need medical attention? And he kept saying, I'm not allowed to say. That's all I want to say. And he hangs up the phone, which made it worse. So then that's when I proceed with the advice of my close friend and relative. Police meets me at the house. My mom isn't there. And they tried calling her. She didn't answer the phone. I gave them the number of the person who called me to let me know I need to check up on my mom. And he wouldn't answer and for at least 3 or 4 attempts. And then he finally did. He said, again, I already told the daughter to check on her mom, and that was the goal. That's all I wanted to do. Please don't get me involved. So no answers from my mom. She wasn't at home. I asked the neighbors if they saw her. They said, yeah, we saw her this morning. She's fine. And I was like, this is now validating the gut feeling. This is the trap. So I told the police, thank you for your time. I'm so sorry to waste it. They was like, well, do you want to call her to see if she responds to you? I said, no, I'm not ready to talk to her. I just wasn't ready to talk to her. They said, well, have you considered texting her? And I was like, nope, but you know what? Let's try that. So I texted her in front of the police. Said, Mom, I'm here at your house with the police checking to see if you're okay. And I hope you are. I love you. Well, an hour later, when my nerves kind of dissipate a little, she calls me. Now I'm panicking because this is the first time I see her name on the caller ID. And I'm still not physically ready and mentally or emotionally ready to take this phone call or hear her voice. I feel like that woman, again, that just got out of a domestic abuse relationship. I'm shaking. I answer the phone. I'm trying to gain composure and sound like I'm not affected. So I said, hey, Mom, are you okay? It was complete silence, just like that, just silence. And she finally answers and she says, I'm okay. And I said, okay, I'm glad you're here. You're okay. And I feel like I blacked out because now I can't remember anything else that happened because I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to hang up on her because I'm mad. I'm mad. And why did you do this? Why did you put me in an unnecessary state of mind to be worried about you if you are sick or I might come to your house and find a dead body? Like, I was thinking the worst. I was so emotional. And here I am on the phone trying to remain my composure. And I'm happy at the same time, I'm happy to hear her voice. She's okay, but I'm angry because you're okay. You got
right.
I was so conflicted.
Right.
And guess what happens? We started arguing. She says, well, we didn't start arguing. She initiates an argument. She says, did you send the fake police to my house? And I said, come again? She said, did you send the fake police to my house? Did you have them call my boyfriend? I said, fake police? Like, I had the time
right.
to ask us and disturb everyone else's weekend time to check up on you. And you think I'm calling the fake police? This is the moment where I was like, she might have had a drink. She might have been drinking. She's not in a good place. And she tells me, she says, I miss you. And I want to talk to you. And I can't believe it's been a year. You haven't called. You haven't checked up on me. You don't talk to me. And I said, Mom, I'm glad you're okay. I don't want to argue. I feel like this is an insult to think that I will call the police. I mean, that I would call someone a fake police. I don't know. I just think it's an insult to think that you think that I don't care enough about you that I wouldn't have the police come and check up on you. I was seriously concerned if I might come to your house and we find a dead body, or you were sick and I wasn't there for you.
Right.
And now I'm upset. I'm upset because you're okay. And all you had to do was reach out to see if I was okay and ready to talk. All you had to do was say, San, I miss you. When you're ready, I'm ready. Or call me and leave me a voicemail because my number did not change. And say, baby, I miss you. I love you. Out of respect for you, whenever you're ready, just know I'm here. I'm ready to talk and listen so we can be in a better place. But no, you choose the dramatic route, Mom. And that's not okay. That is not okay. Right. I said that to her on the phone. And then she starts bringing up all of the reasons why we are here. She starts saying, well, if you hadn't did this, we wouldn't be here. If you did it, you will never understand it till you push a baby out of your right. Why I'm like this. And yeah, that's how I feel like it's not reconciliation, but it's not estrangement either, because we've had contact, but not by my choice and not in a healthy way.
Right.
And that's
well, here's the thing. I mean, estrangement can have many different definitions and levels of contact. There are some people that consider themselves estranged if they only see each other at, the holidays, at Christmas each year, right? No other time during the year that they're in contact with one another. So, so for all intents and purposes, I think that this would still, if the communication still goes silent from your end moving forward, I think that this is still considered estrangement. And I'm curious because I think that I think the listeners would probably want to know, have you ever considered writing a letter to your mom and listing out, these are the things that would need to change in order for us to have a relationship with one another moving forward, or something along those lines? I mean, even, I'm trying to think of ways that you could communicate that to your mom without it being in person or on the phone and, verbal communication. But also, if there's not, if you're like, no, no, thank you. Why, I mean, I know why, but I want the listeners to hear from you why that is maybe not an option for you.
Okay, so I've tried both. I tried writing out feelings and articulating my thoughts in a letter, and they were invalidated. They were, how could you feel this way? I do all I can to make sure you have what I didn't have. How could you? How can you? How can you make me out to be this person I'm not? It feels like it all, no matter the approach, I feel like I always lose. I feel like when you're a healed person talking to an unhealed person, there's no open door. I guess there's no open heart or open mind. I feel like there was just like it was a stab in the dark. I tried. I always want to be in a position to where I can say I tried. I exhausted this option. I tried this. I didn't work either, at this point, no, I wouldn't, because of the pattern of behavior. Again, I've tried. So I hope the listeners can get from my story that I've tried. It might not be the way you've tried, but I've tried in my own way, what I felt comfortable with, giving my mom chance and chance and chance and chance. But it just proves to me that there's not going to change, nothing that will change for us until she's willing to change. And I hate to say that. I don't want our relationship to be contingent based on her, but I feel like that's necessary. I feel like in order for us to reconcile and have a successful mother and daughter relationship outside of, and break the cycle of her mother and daughter relationship when she was the daughter with her mother, I feel like she has to want to be the change she wants to see in both aspects. When she was the daughter and now she's the mother, I'm just so frustrated because I'm like, it only takes that one switch. Mom, just turn on that switch, please, because you're missing out. You missed out with my grandmother because you wasn't trying to change just because you wanted to change for yourself. Maybe if she saw the change, she would have changed. But here I am changing, hoping not only am I healing my trauma, but also that it inspires you to be like, you know what? This probably is necessary so I can have a better relationship with myself, but also with my daughter, because I value that.
Yes. Yes. And what I hear from you is it's hurtful. And this is what I hear from adult children. It's what I've experienced as an adult child. It's very hurt, and my own children before I did my quote unquote the work, right? It's beyond, it's a rejection.
Yes.
When a parent just flat out refuses to change anything. I say that also understanding as an estrangement coach that generally when a parent refuses to quote unquote do the work, it's generally because there's so much fear from their own trauma that they're not able to, they're literally not able to face their own experiences and their own childhood and their own traumas. And so that is what brings you to an impasse. However, while we can have empathy and sympathy for the parent having had their own traumas and their own experiences, that does not negate the fact that they're causing their child pain from that sense of rejection. It's like I mean, let's use the example as we've talked about, a domestic violence situation or just flat couples counseling, right? If somebody goes in and says, well, the wife is like, we need couples counseling. And the husband's like, no, we don't. And she's like, well, yeah, we do. I do. I need this. I need us to do this so that we can have a better relationship. And when there's that refusal from the other side, the person who's wanting it can only feel a sense of rejection of like, I don't want you enough to do this. I don't care enough about you to do this. Would you agree?
I felt that when you said it.
Okay.
I do.
And that's, again, I've experienced that myself. I know my children have. Every adult child that I talk to says those types of things. Even the parents who say today, well, I didn't like that my parents did A, B, C, and D, but I didn't cut them off. And when I talk to them and we get beneath that, I'm like, but would you have wanted your parent to have acknowledged some of the pains that they've caused you? And they're like, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are. You want your parent to be able to step into the role and say, I am willing to do whatever it takes for us to have a healthy relationship so that we can be in one another's lives in healthy ways and have communication and be together on the holidays and all of these things. So I hear you. And I also hear the pain of that rejection that comes. And regardless of how old you are, the impact is the same. It really, it doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
Right.
Yeah.
I have several adult children that I have met with and worked with who have parents that just flat refuse, and the utter heartbreak that those children feel. And I say children, most of them that I've talked to about that are in their late 30s or in their 40s. So they are, they're midway through life in essence. They're not young adults. They're not children. And it absolutely shreds their hearts.
Yeah.
It absolutely shreds it. So they then begin to seek out things in other areas, right? Well, if I can't get this from my parent, then I need to get it from my spouse or my friends, or, some people throw themselves into work and then they get, accolades and all these things from work and their sense of purpose, and they mean something to someone at work, kind of thing. So it's insidious. It's just so painful. I know one of the things that you mentioned before we started recording today that you wanted to talk about, defining failure and success in the relationship with your mom.
Yes.
Help us to know, what would you define as a successful, healthy relationship? Because we can talk all day long about mom won't go to therapy so we can have a healthy relationship. Well, meanwhile, some of our listeners are like, well, what the hell is a healthy relationship? Right? Because to some people, that's like, well, where I'm talking to my parents. So that's healthy. So what is your definition of healthy?
Healthy. I think for me, what I would do differently this time, if I had to do it again, and I would never want to go through this ever, let's be clear. But if this was Groundhog Day and I had to go through it again, what I would do differently and what I would define healthy is, first and foremost, I would not speak the way I spoke about my mom and the experience. I remember I was so hurt that I wanted confirmation or affirmation. I wanted to be seen, I guess, the victim. And I don't like that word, because at the same time, I was also taking accountability. I was like, well, maybe I'm the perpetrator in this, but let me know if I'm crazy. I just wanted someone to validate that I wasn't crazy. So I was telling my story to everybody who would listen. And I think from that journey, at the end of the day, it made me feel like, ooh, did I make my mom look this way in the light? Because my mom, at the end of the day, is a good woman. I wouldn't be the woman I am today if it wasn't for the way she raised me. It wasn't healthy, but at the same time, look at what she created. I'm this independent, educated, beautiful Black woman.
Right.
But in that it took a lot for me to see that in myself, right? Because of the toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So I believe I know my mom is a good woman. She's a good person. She just didn't know how to love me or love herself in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So to define a healthy relationship, it takes both of us to understand we have a mutual common interest in each other. One, we love each other. Great. Unconditionally. Even better. But how can we learn to love each other healthily? And let's define that together. What does that look like for you, Mom? Oh, well, this looks like you loving me. This is what I need from you to love me. It also takes me learning myself enough and loving myself enough to say, Mom, this is how you can love me. I don't need you to provide for me the way you used to as a mother. I need you to provide to me this way as a mother. I think if she can let go of the material ways of providing for me and learn how to provide for me in the nurturing way, the caring, how is your day? Like what struggles are you going through? How can I help you type of way? Like be my therapist before I had to pay for a therapist type of thing.
Right.
I think that could be, to me, that's my definition of healthy. It just takes us just learning what one common theme that we want together. What's our mutual goal? And I think that would just set the tone for a great healthy relationship, just identifying that piece.
Right. That's a beautiful, beautiful definition. And I think that is, it kind of falls in line with that platinum rule, right? Like, okay, we have this common goal. This is, we love each other. So that's our common theme that we can attach all these other things to. But these other things need to be in ways that the other person can receive them. So if you, to feel loved and cared for, need to have chicken noodle soup delivered to your house every Sunday, right? And I'm bringing over steak and potatoes, you're like, this is not what I need. I understand the intent behind this, but the way this is landing, I don't eat steak, I don't eat beef, I need chicken noodle soup. You're bringing me something that I can't eat. And so I'm not feeling loved by this, right? But it's hard for a person to know what they need if they don't know themselves. And that is where the therapy comes in, and working through your traumas so you can clear the debris that that's landed, on top of you from all of your life experiences that have just covered the essence of who you are. You're beneath this rubble of, all the debris from the hurricane that has come through, called your life, and we've got to pull the tree limbs off. And we got to take all this stuff out before we can get to who am I? What do I want? I think I want this, but that's probably out of all the conditioning that I've had in my life, or the habitual patterns in your mom. Oh, I need to be in control, and I needed this and that and the other thing in order to feel safe. Oh, well, really what I need to feel safe is actually somebody to actually just be present with me, right? Instead of all this other stuff. So it's hard when you have one party that is doing this excavating and pulling the tree limbs off and really looking at what is beneath all of this, and trying their best to figure out who am I, and knowing that takes time. It took decades for you to get to where you're at, and so it's going to take some time to unravel all of this stuff. And then meanwhile, this other person is keeping on and nothing's really changed. And you're left, as this person who is doing the work, you're left with trying to figure out, okay, I'm the only one that's interested in doing this. And every time I interact with my mom, it's the same thing over and over again. Where do I draw the line to take care of me and my health and my sanity, my mental health, And what does this mean for our relationship if this other person isn't at least willing to come to the table to even have discussions about this, right? And when I say come to the table, I'm talking about like coming into therapy for more than one session, right? Generally and that's not uncommon too, is a lot of parents will come into therapy, they'll attend one session, they feel like they're being attacked, and then they're like, I'm out, I'm not doing any of this. And instead of sticking with it and really trying to work and get curious about, as I'm always talking about, being curious, getting curious about what's underneath all of this. What if what I'm seeing isn't really what's happening? Or what if there's another reason why this is happening that I can't see, right? So, I have to applaud you for stepping up and into this in the way that you have. I think you've been intentional with it. I think that you love I know you love your mom.
I do.
Without a shadow of a doubt. There's not an ounce of me that thinks that Santrice does not love her mom. I know you love your mom. And I know that you would love more than anything to have healthy, sustaining relationship with your mom.
Absolutely.
And it's brave of you to come on here and share your story and be vulnerable and opening up, because, we all, when we share our stories, we open ourselves up for people who may not understand or may not agree, et cetera, et cetera. But I want you to know that your story has meaning. It has value. You are worthy of being loved and belonging and having healthy relationships with every person in your life, not just with your mom. And I can see that that's what you're working towards. Most importantly, you're working on having a healthy relationship with yourself. And that will ripple out into other areas and other relationships that you do have in your life. So as we begin to wrap up today's interview, what are some things that you want to leave our listeners with? What are some things you would like to express? If you want to say, if there's something you want to message, if your mom were to hear this, what message would you want her to hear? Just what's on your mind that you'd like to share?
A couple of things, actually. First and foremost, I want the listeners to know that no one in this world is alone. You may feel like as though you are. I know I did, because I was raised only child. I often felt alone, that no one see me, could hear my cry, or understand where I was coming from. Me being a believer, of course, I feel like God doesn't want us alone, which is why I came to share my story with everyone today. I believe that there is someone out there that you can relate to, as long as we are willing to share our part and talk about our story, because we all desire to feel seen. We all desire to feel heard. We all desire to feel understood. And if one listener is impacted by my story today, I hope that was my only goal, just to bless someone to feel like, hey, I can relate to her. This doesn't just happen in one community of the white community. It happens everywhere across all families, no matter the color. The other thing I definitely wanted the listeners to take from this too is, of course, by no means did I want to offend anyone, especially my mom, or make her off to be this monster. She is not. She's a beautiful person. I definitely wish that because she deserves it. I wish that she had a better upbringing, so she knew how to give me what I deserve as a child. I definitely want, if she was to ever look to listen to this, mom, I hope that you are proud that you raised this daughter who is fearless. I'm putting that in the universe. Fearless, that I can share this story and be selfless. I'm considering not just my journey, but everyone else's journey, that they can relate to this. And I hope that you're open-minded and open-hearted, that although this has something to do with you, that you can bless someone else by allowing me to share this story. So I just really want to bless somebody. That's all I strive to do every day. To be kind and have courage and be fearless. I want to live this next part of my life in a fearless way and communicate to my mom and other people. We need to have conversations. We need to normalize the conversation of estrangement. That way families, adult children can feel like, hey, I have options, or I have paths. I could take this path and try it this way this person shared, or try it my own way. But I feel like we need this. Kreed, thank you so much for your podcast, because had I not came across yours, I didn't know I had a path. I didn't know what my path would look like, nor I didn't even know I can consider a path. I felt like estrangement chose me. Although I wished for when I was a kid, I would never, as an adult person, make a decision that I want to abandon my mom, ever. Because I know I wouldn't want to be abandoned, but it led to me to do this because I needed to find out who I was. I needed to find out who my mom was. And now can I go into the relationship, if she's willing, with a kind heart and with patience and understanding.
Yes. Yes. Your mother did raise a fearless daughter, and your mother did get, I'm sure, many things right, but this one, I know she did. She got this one right with raising you to be the person that you are today. I recognize that wasn't all her, because I think that you need to take some, credit for making yourself to be who you are today, as well. But you have a heart for your mom, and that comes through in everything that you say and do, regardless of the level of hurt you've experienced, the level of fear you've experienced, what have you. It still comes through that you care about your mom. I thank you for sharing your story today. I know you and I've talked that I know you'll be back on the show. I think that you are a wealth of information, and can be helpful for a lot of different people. You've done enough work in this area of your life that you're able to you're able to communicate in ways that doesn't throw daggers at the quote unquote other side, if you will. And you get it. You get that parents don't know what they don't know. And that they mess up. It's a part of life. It's none of you are born, none of us are born with a handbook that says, okay, here's the handbook for Santrice, and this is how she needs to be raised, right? We don't get that as parents. And so we're oftentimes flying by the seat of our pants, and by default we're going to make mistakes. So I thank you for your compassion, your grace that you extend to humanity as a whole, but also to the estrangement community. But most of all, I am so grateful that you have done your work, are doing your work, and you're working on healing you, because that is what will heal future generations. And prior generations as well. So thank you for being on the show, and again, willing to step into this scary place of how do I share my story? What is this going to look like, kind of thing, and putting yourself out there. I know without a doubt that you will touch lives by having shared your story here on The Estranged Heart. So thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, perhaps entertaining becoming a guest on our show, or following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. As a reminder, there is an online support group on Facebook. If you are a estranged mom who identifies as being spiritual and approaches estrangement with a sense of curiosity rather than blame and judgment, and desire to do inner self-work and reflection, please seek us out. We can be found at facebook.com/estranged mothers support group. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out to me via email at theestrangedheart@gmail.com.